Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to the idea that is in-depth editorial analysis discussion. So guys, in the today's video, we are going to discuss the best of the editorials and we are going to pick the editorial from the multiple newspapers. We are going to take editorial briefly from the Indian Express newspaper. Then we are going to take a very good editorial that has come in today's print, one article from Quint and the Indian Express. Now guys, in these particular sessions, we actually aim to focus on multiple things. Number one, we try to focus on the content enrichment. Fine, because many number of times we see this particular thing that the aspirants, they are not able to have, because they don't have good content, they are not able to present their answers into the mains examination. Secondly, the art of interlinking the contemporary topics with GS 1, 2, 3 will be taken up. Then the detailed backgrounders will also be taken up, and in the structured manner, the explanations how they can be given in the examination, they will be focused upon. Along with that, the art of exam presentation and multidimensionality will be something that will be emphasized in these particular sessions. Guys, before starting, I would like to tell you briefly about the Unacademy UPSC CSE GS courses, where you get an opportunity to get educated by India's best educators, and you can enroll in Unacademy Plus subscription and Iconic subscription, where you can take the subscription starting from take the subscription of 36 months, 24 months as you like, and you can instantly get 10% discount on all these subscriptions by using the code Sahil29. And now the Arambh batch has also been started, which is a bilingual batch. Fine, and where you again find the best of the India's educators. And the Arambh batch, this batch is particularly oriented towards the UPSC CSE 2024 preparations, and this particular batch includes the NCRT and CSAT as well. Okay, it also includes the prelims and the main test series, and the batch has just started from 22nd of December. And again, you can enroll in this batch and can use the code Sahil29 to instantly avail additional 10% discount. Now also you can enroll in the CSAT courses, where you get opportunity to get educated by the top educators, and CSAT courses have started from December 12th. And you can also enroll in all these courses at 0% EMI. You can call at this number and you will get all the assistance in this particular direction. Moreover, the Unacademy UPSC CSE test series has also been started, which includes a 55 plus tests, which have been priced at 1,999, that is 2,000 rupees just. You can enroll in these in these courses. Now, guys, starting with the today's analysis. So in the today's session, the first article that we are going to take is from Indian Express, and the article reads, "A more accessible house." A more accessible house. Now guys, in this particular article, we are going to discuss that how we need to focus more on the disabled people's rights and making the common places, public places more accessible to disabled people. Now, before going in this particular article, guys, let's understand some of the basic things and then we'll be talking about this article. Now, first of all, you might have heard multiple words by which we try to define the disabled people. You might have heard a word impairment. Fine. Then there is another word that is a disability. And then there is handicap. First of all, what's the difference between all these three words? Guys, impairment, it is a bodily limitation. Okay, a bodily limitation, for example, a person is not having a limb, a person is not having a hand. So that bodily limitation is impairment. Now, because of impairment, a person will not be able to do certain kind of tasks. So as a person is not able to do some specific kind of a task, that becomes the disability. And what is handicap? Handicap is social discriminations that a person will be facing because of the person's impairment and disability. So basically, impairment is a physical, biological limitation. Disability is the disability is a limitation to do a work. Is it clear? And handicap is a social discrimination that's there. Now, understand this particular thing, that as we talk about the disabled people, for the empowerment of disabled people, India specifically in DPSP, Directive Principle of State Policy, there is article number 41, where state is obliged to provide needy assistance all the people who are in need of assistance. Secondly, India has also signed as well as ratified United Nation Convention of Right of Person with the Disabilities. We have signed and we have ratified this particular convention, and for that particular thing, guys, we are obliged to ensure the accessible physical spaces, accessibility in libraries and all other arenas of life for the disabled people. Moreover, in this particular direction, guys, again, this article is very important. Why? Because recently draft disability policy 2022 has also been released. Is it clear? Draft disability policy 2022 has also been released. So therefore, this particular topic becomes important, and this particular topic will be important for GS paper number 2, vulnerable sections of societies, and the vulnerable section of societies, social justice. So let's take this article now. So basically, guys, what has happened when we talk about the disabled people and their rights? For them, we are running a specific program, that is the Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan. Now, Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan is also called as sometimes the Accessible India campaign, and this campaign got started in December 2015. Now, basically, guys, it is in line with the multiple conventions that we have signed for the disabled people, particularly United Nations Convention of Right of Person with Disabilities that we have signed. India has an obligation that all the accessibilities are to be provided to disabled people. Now, in Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, it was provided that the soft accessibility, for example, accessibility in terms of books is to be provided, accessibility in terms of how accessibility of government websites, okay, accessibility of books is to be provided, and apart from soft accessibility, hard accessibility or physical accessibility about the transportation services. Now, many number of times, guys, you have seen in Delhi particularly that there are the low floor buses. Now, why these low floor buses have been introduced? It is because so that the disabled people who have some locomotor disability, they can access these particular buses. So we need to ensure that built environment, physical buildings, ICT, information and communication technology, government websites, etc., and transport facilities need to be more disabled friendly. So this scheme we are running, but at the same time we find this particular thing, guys, that recently the Lok Sabha, one of our Lok Sabha MP, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, has pointed this particular thing that actually these the goals of Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan has not been implemented, and the public buildings are very poorly equipped. Moreover, in the parliament premises also, disabled friendly infrastructure is missing. This is something that has been provided in this particular direction. Now, guys, further moving on, when we talk about the Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, what is the Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan? Let's discuss it a little bit more. So the aim of Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan is to make a barrier free, conducive environment for Divyangjans, that is the person with disabilities all over the country. Now, this the Accessible India campaign, it is a nationwide flagship campaign which is being run under the Department of Empowerment of Person with Disabilities, which is under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And there are the three components. Of this particular campaign. Number one, built environment accessibility. Now, as we talk about the built environment accessibility of government buildings, accessibility of public spaces, accessibility in building in banks, etc. Now, how to provide accessibility? For example, they need to construct a ramp. Which can be accessed by the people who take the assistance of wheelchair. They need to provide the lifts if ramp is not possible, or all such kind of things. Then transportation system accessibility, roadways, okay, buses, information and communication ecosystem accessibility. Now, guys, understand, few days back there was one more article that came. Is like this, that the people who have a visual disability, how these people will access the websites. Okay, Moreover, the people who have visual disabilities, how they will be accessing the entertainment also, for example TV, etc. So it has been provided that they should be provided some audio descriptions so that they can understand the layout of a website or such kind of a thing. So information and communication ecosystem accessibility is to be provided to them. Now it has been provided that there are severe gaps in this particular scheme. For example, as we talk about section number 45 of Right of Person with Disabilities Act 2016, it specifically provides that all the existing public buildings need to be made accessible within 5 years of the date of promulgation of the rules under this act. Now the rules under this particular act got notified in 2017 and the 5-year timeline has expired in June 2022. 5 years have happened, but up till now it has been provided that this deadline has not been met. Still, many of the public buildings are not accessible to disabled people, and even in parliament there are a lot of issues with respect to the accessibility. So therefore it has been provided basically a strong enforcement mechanism which is led by the people with disabilities and accessibility professional. It is very much important so that all the milestones under Accessible India campaign can be reached. Now in this particular direction there are some way forwards or some of the suggestions that have been given. Now according to the report by Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, the name of the report is Beyond Reasonable Accommodation. Now this particular report points out that we need to make every new building accessible before it is granted an occupancy certificate. So what is an occupancy certificate? Occupancy certificate is given which ensures that now this particular building can be used for commercial or residential purposes. So the occupancy certificate is to be given, and occupancy certificate is particularly compulsory for particular type of commercial buildings. Okay, now when a commercial building or when a public building is being given occupancy certificate, before that it is needed to be seen that whether they are accessible, whether they are ramps or all such kind of things also. Then the next suggestion that has been provided is that we need to ensure that the relevant provisions of harmonized guidelines and standard for universal accessibility in India 2021 must be integrated into local bylaws and the state planning laws. Now guys, when we talk about this harmonized guideline, now this particular guideline has been released by CPWD, that is Central Public Work Department. CPWD, Central Public Work Department, and this particular guideline covers that how the built environment, how the design planning of the buildings needs to be such that a barrier-free environment is provided to the disabled people. Now actually this particular guideline has been drafted by the Indian Institute of Technology IIT Roorkee, and along with the IIT Roorkee, National Institute of Urban Affairs under Ministry of Housing, they have drafted this particular harmonized guideline, standard and universal accessibility in India 2021 rules. So they need to be integrated in the bylaws and the state planning laws. Okay. Then next thing that has been provided is that municipal authorities, they also need to have accessibility professionals which will judge a public building that whether it is accessible to the disabled people or not. Okay, so these are specific professionals that needed to be there. After that, it has also been provided that when we talk about the National Building Code, within the National Building Code, accessibility factor needs to be added separately, and by these elaborate laws only it will be possible that the disabled people are being accommodated into the public buildings. Then the next thing that's there is that we need to constitute the accessibility committee. Now, what is this accessibility committee? Accessibility committee will be set up within the parliament, and this particular committee should be given the task with delivering the recommendations in a time bound manner as how every aspect of parliamentary process is more disabled friendly, how disabled people are to be given representation in parliamentary debates, in passing of the law, how their suggestion can be taken in all the legislations which will impact them, okay, and how their suggestions can be taken when their welfare is to be done. So this parliamentary accessibility committee is to be created. Then next thing has been provided, the accessibility committee Its constitution was also suggested recently by a Supreme Court. So on that particular guideline, the Parliament should also create this accessibility committee. Then next thing that's being talked about here is that, guys, so the next thing that comes here is that we also need to, the Vidhi report also recommends that when the central state level procurements are happening, now guys, basically the government had to do procurement for many number of purposes. So in the public procurement, the physical assets, digital assets, the transport infrastructure, it needs to be procured in such a way so that it will be disabled friendly. For example, I can take one example of transportation. For example, basically, suppose a state government is procuring certain buses. They are operating, let's say, electric buses. They are operating electric buses. Now while procuring the electric buses, you need to ensure that these buses are low floor buses so that they can be used by the disabled people as well. When the digital assets are being procured, okay, physical assets are being procured, such kind of things needed to be kept in mind. The next thing that's being provided is that these recommendations should also be replicated in agreements between the procurement agencies, bidder, contractors. So okay, whatever physical asset they are providing to the government, they need to ensure that disabled people should also be accommodated in it. Then that basically it has also been provided that the tender document, whenever government is rolling out any project, whenever government is rolling out any project, fine, they need to ensure that accessibility standards are being followed there. Now in this particular direction, there are certain steps that have also been taken. For example, there is a Sugamya Bharat app and there is a Sugamya Bharat app. Now the Sugamya Bharat app has been developed by Department of Empowerment of Person with Disabilities, and this particular app enables the disabled people to report any building that is inaccessible. Okay, so they can flag that particular building, they can report that particular building. But in this particular Sugamya Bharat app, there are many limitations that have been there. Often the technical glitches have been reported in this particular app. So urgently it's needed to be provided that these glitches are to be removed so that so that its full potential can be reaped. Moreover, in this particular direction, okay, here we can see that the Department of Empowerment of Person with Disabilities should also ensure that accessibility targets that have been taken under every government, ministries, etc., they should be reached in a particular time-bound manner. For example, I just want to give you that Section 45. Section 45 provides that public buildings need to be made accessible within 5 years, and that deadline got expired in June 2022. So basically, wherever the targets have been taken, all these particular targets are to be met in a time-bound manner. Moreover, it has also been provided that the funds are to be provided. Okay, now it has the funds, okay, but sometimes if they are not able to meet, then the additional funds should also be provided. Okay, then these are, guys, all the recommendations that had come in this particular direction. Now the point that comes here is that basically the government should not shirk from discharging the responsibility that it has towards the disabled people. They deserve dignity, they deserve all the rights that have been given to the other people. We have a problem of poorly designed world. Poorly designed world means a world which only caters to the able-bodied people. Disabled people, the world doesn't aims to cater to them, and this can be seen in all walks of life. So that's something which needs to be taken care of. Now the next article, so this article we have taken from the print, and the article, it talks about that we need to ensure that our navy is strengthened. There are certain shortcomings still in India's naval design. These shortcomings are to be rectified as soon as possible. Now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 3. India's defense needs, India's defense and security related issues. Now this particular article we have taken from the print. Okay, now let's discuss this particular article and why this article has come. Because recently, if you are following the newspaper analysis regularly, multiple developments have happened. For example, guys, just 2-3 days back, INS Marmagao, which is a destroyer, it has just been commissioned. Now, in this particular direction, guys, we see this thing that the project 15B was launched, and under the project 15B, there were the destroyer ships, 4 destroyer ships that were to be developed, and out of that, INS Vishakhapatnam got inducted earlier, and now INS Marmagao has been inducted, which is a destroyer. It has recently been commissioned. Then the Vikrant, so country's first indigenously built aircraft, was commissioned recently. Okay, then third is INS Arighat. So INS Arighat is India's second nuclear ballistic missile submarine, fine, which is about to be commissioned. And then there is INS Vagir. So INS Vagir is a Scorpion submarine which has been delivered to the Navy. Okay, now when we talk about these all high profile inductions that have been made in Indian Navy, we see this particular thing that Indian Navy is turning towards an active Navy. Okay, all these particular things have been done. Now Indian Navy needs to be an active Navy. Why? Because we have a coastline of more than 7,500 kilometers, and as India is talking about creating a rule based order in Indo-Pacific, moreover, as we see, the Chinese are also trying to bring forward their hegemony into the Indo-Pacific. India needs to have a strong navy so that it can deter the Chinese dominance, and it can promote the rule-based order. Now, understand this particular thing, that as we talk about 2000 and since 2011, there are large number of reforms that had come, and we have seen more and more number of inductions. For example, since 2011, we see this particular thing, that average of 2 major warships are being inducted annually. Every year, 2 major warships are being inducted. Now, basically it has been provided that though it looks very good, but still there are incapacities, still there are issues in the Indian Navy. For example, it has been provided that it still takes too long to build a naval ship. It takes 7 to 9 years for building a destroyer in India. It is twice what it takes in China. So in China, around 3.5 to 4 years it takes to build a destroyer, but we are taking 7 to 9 years. So we need to further enhance it. The next thing is there that key accompaniments are missing at the time of commissioning. Now, what we understand by accompaniment? Accompaniment are, guys, those weapons, aircrafts, etc. that are to be complemented with a particular ship. For example, when we talk about the naval ships, they need to have the long range missiles, they need to have air defense missiles, okay, torpedoes, anti submarine helicopters. They also need to have carrier borne aircrafts, fine, they need to have all these accompaniments, but these suitable accompaniments are not there. Now when we, guys, talk about the INS Vikramaditya, which is an aircraft carrier that India had acquired from Soviet Union, it got commissioned in 2013, but it has been in dry dock. Dry dock is one where the water level is very much less, and dry dock is maintained for carrying the routine repair of the ships. In the dry dock, even the ship construction happens. So dry dock is a kind of a resting place. So in the dry dock, the INS Vikramaditya has been accommodated. Why? Because accompaniments, weaponry which is suitable on Vikramaditya was not there, and it has been provided that no aircraft has landed on either of the India's 2 aircraft carriers. Okay, India's aircraft carriers in the last 2 years. Okay, so Vikramaditya, Vikrant, no aircraft had landed on that. So this is something that though we have the aircraft carriers, but we are not able to utilize its full functionality. Now, at the same time, guys, there is the Chinese threat that is becoming a very big problem. Now, when we talk about China, China recently launched a 3rd aircraft carrier, and this 3rd aircraft carrier of China, it's bigger than India's 2 aircraft carriers combined. It has even more advanced technologies that will enable the launching of aircrafts on this aircraft carrier at short intervals possible. It can carry more fuels. Okay, now, guys, understand that when we talk about an aircraft carrier houses many of the aircrafts. These aircrafts can involve into the combat operations, etc. And to refuel these particular aircrafts, the fuel is to be carried. So the fuel carrying capacity is high. It can carry the heavier weaponry, And by this particular thing, this Chinese aircraft carriers capabilities increase a lot. Okay, this is something that has happened. Now guys, after this particular thing, it is also being provided that the China is also planning for war on the sea with drones, unmanned vessels, fine, and it is also capable of linking the manned warships and for the network attacks. Network attacks can also be carried by the China. Now understand this particular thing. China is trying to invoke its hegemony in Indian Ocean. We see this particular thing that the China is also trying to build the naval bases around the Indo-Pacific. Recently, we have seen this particular thing that China has taken the Hambantota port of Sri Lanka on 99 year of lease. So basically around the Indian Ocean rim, fine, China is trying to develop the strategic assets. Okay, so therefore, when we talk about the Chinese capabilities which are increasing, it will impact Indian Navy's capabilities directly. Okay, now at the same time, when we talk about the Indian Navy, what are the traditional challenges that have been there with Indian Navy? So we'll discuss all these particular challenges one by one, and we have tried to present these particular challenges in a graphic representation so that you can understand. Number one problem is inadequate budget. Okay, so though we have substantially enhanced the budget for the defense forces, particularly for capital acquisitions into the past, but still we need to further enhance the budget. Now guys, understand, always whenever the budget for the defense purposes will be raised, there will be the question of opportunity, moral opportunity cost that will come in between. Question of moral opportunity cost will come. Let's understand what is this moral opportunity cost. Moral opportunity cost. Now moral opportunity cost, now guys, understand this particular thing. Basically, if you do X work, you need certain resources to do the X work, and as you use this particular resources to do the X work, the Y work you cannot do, and because you cannot do the Y work, there will be certain cost, that will be incurred. So that is opportunity cost. Let's take one very simple example. Right now, suppose I am working as an educator. If I am working as an educator, I cannot work as, let's say, a chartered accountant. I cannot work as per the qualification that I had got. Okay, so as I cannot work as a chartered accountant, as I cannot work as per the qualifications that I have got or any other kind of a thing, so that is the opportunity cost. So whenever we talk about increasing the defense budget, there always comes the issue of opportunity cost. It is being said that we have so many people who are hungry, so many people who are poor, health expenditure is not very good, education's expenditure is not very good, and you are talking about increasing the defense budget. So there is the question of moral opportunity cost that comes, and because of that particular thing, giving a more budget becomes a kind of a challenge. But we need to understand this particular thing, that national interest is most important. If national interest will be conserved, all other challenges can be taken care of. Then we have undersized fleet. Okay, undersized fleet. So basically fleet, naval fleet size that we have, they are not they are undersized, and they cannot be the envy of the other countries. For example, we have seen that China has launched the third aircraft carrier, which is bigger than the two aircraft carriers of India combined. We have aging boats, we need to replace them as early as possible. Then there is delays in placing the order with the other countries for the submarines, ships, missiles and all such kind of a thing. There are poorly coordinated delivery schedules. Okay, basically the delivery of the submarines, weaponaries, etc. that are coming, many of them are falling behind their deadlines. Okay, and no solution has been retrieved in this particular direction. Fine. So these are, guys, all the challenges, and these challenges are needed to be addressed immediately as soon as possible. Now moving to next article. Now this particular article we have taken from the Quint, and guys, the article is excellent, a very good article. This article contains a lot of case studies with respect to the present reforms that are being carried. Now, first of all, what this particular article talks about, the article's heading is India's prison plight, how corporate rehabilitation can change prisoners' lives. This particular article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, prison reforms or criminal justice reforms. Criminal justice system reforms. Now, before going in this particular article, let's understand some of the basic things. So basically, guys, we have, what do we understand by the criminal justice system? What do we understand by criminal justice system? So criminal justice system basically means, number one, police, the police, judiciary, and prisons. Then prisons. Suppose a person has been accused that Mr. A has done some kind of a crime. Police will first of all be investigating that particular matter, and then this Mr. A will be presented in front of judiciary. Judiciary will hear that particular matter. Judiciary will, let's say, send this particular person in custody, in remand, or let's say the judiciary has given the judgment and it said that yes, actually Mr. A has done the crime, and then this particular person will be sent into the prison. So these are three wings when we talk about police, judiciary, prisons. Now this entire system is called as the criminal justice system, and in criminal justice system we need to bring reforms at all the levels. Particularly, for example, as we talk about police, we know that there are many challenges at police. There is the basically politician police nexus that's there. Often the police personnel, they abuse their power. Then at the level of judiciary, certain reforms are needed. For example, judicial backlogs are there. Okay, and then at the prisons level also certain reforms are needed. For example, high occupancy rate. Prisons are not actually acting as a facility to reform the people. So all these three organs deserve some reforms, and today we are talking about the prison reforms, which is a part of a criminal justice system reform. Okay, so I hope that you have understood this entire thing. Now moving to the next article. Okay, so this particular moving to the next slide. So this particular article, guys, is actually giving first of all the entire history of the prison system, and after that the article will majorly be talking about that how some good case studies have been implemented in the different states. First of all, as we talk about the prison system in India started in 1846 on the basis of the recommendations given by the Macaulay Committee. Now, the Macaulay Committee provided this particular thing that we need to have a functional prison system where the criminals can be punished, and by punishing the criminals, an orderly and just society can be created. Now, what happened over the years? We developed the prisons across the country. Okay, the number of prisons grew, the number of prisoners in the prison, they also grew. At the same time, along with the prison, the judicial system also got evolved, and the release of the reformed prison in the society was carried. But understand, still we find this particular thing that the prisons and justice, they are not going hand in hand. There are people who are into the prison, but the objective for which they have been put into the prison, that objective is not getting fulfilled. Now let's understand this particular thing. First of all, basically, as we talk about the prisons focus on three things. Number one, retribution, deterrence and reform. Okay, retribution. Now guys, retribution means retribution, actually it is a theory of punishment which works on the principle of eye for an eye. You have done X thing wrong, and because you have done this X thing wrong, you will be given a punishment that is proportionate to the X. Okay, you have harmed some person. Because when you have harmed that particular person, fine, then you are also being put into the jail so that you also experience the commensurate harm. So that is the retribution. This is one of the objective of the prisons. Then sometimes the punishment is also given for deterrence. Deterrence is to establish a command. For example, guys, there is one saying, and the saying goes like this, that you are not being punished because you have stolen a sheep. You are not being punished because you have stolen a sheep. Rather, you are being punished so that no sheep is stolen in the future. You are being punished so that no sheep is stolen in the future. So basically, the punishment in the punishment which is far more proportionate than the crime, that punishment will be given. And then the reform. Reform means the punishment is not being given. The punishment is not being given just to establish a kind of a dictum. The punishment is not being given just to harm you because you have harmed another. Rather, the punishment is being given to bring a reform in a person's mindset. Now, when we talk about the welfarist democracies either focus on the reformative theory of punishment or they focus on retribution theory of punishment. Deterrence is largely not followed. When we talk about prisons today largely are also focusing on reform and reform. Now, when we talk about Gandhiji's view on punishment is, or Gandhiji's view on crimes and punishment is something like this. Gandhiji said that don't hate the sin, but don't hate the sinner. Hate the sin, don't hate the sinner. We need to reform them. Prison today aims to either reform, they aims to retribute, okay, or they aims for deterrence. But India largely the prisons that we have, they focus on retribution or reform and largely on the reform only. Okay, but basically the problem is that if a person is lodged into the prisons, there are so many problems in the prison. For example, basically there are no avenues for genuine reform. A person is living with the ardent criminals, and over the period of time that person will become even more deadly kind of a criminal only. One thing. Then guys, the second problem that comes here is that these prisons are over occupied, they are overstuffed. Because of that particular thing, there is poor sanitation into these prisons. Then guys, these prisons are also the avenues which put the prisoners in a lot of mental torture, physical torture. So because of that particular thing, we need to reform the entire prison structure. First of all, as we talk about the occupancy in the Indian prisons, average occupancy in Indian prison is around 120%. And then there are certain states such as the Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, where the occupancy is more than 130% even. Certain states have occupancy of 170%. Okay, so it means that suppose a prison can house 100 people, 120 people are there. Once, if it can house 100 people, 170 people are there. So over occupancy of prisons, it's a very big problem. Now, basically the prison reforms in India started in 1919-20, but much was not done, and after the independence only, the seriously prison reforms have been taken up. Now, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the correctional reforms, prison reforms, apart from focusing on the general condition of prison, for example, constructing toilets, constructing more number of lockups, okay, or increasing the size, just beyond increasing the general conditions, much has not happened. How mental reform can be brought, how psychological reform can be brought, these kind of things have not happened. Basically, we need to focus on vocational reform. They need to be provided some kind of a skill so that they can live a dignified living even after they have been released. They are to be provided some education, they are to be provided meditation and yoga, so that they can become more calm, so that they can reflect on the bad deeds that they have done. Okay, prisons even are not sufficiently motivated or skilled to engage in creative pursuits. Okay, now guys, understand this thing, that in prisons, the prisoners, they are given opportunity that they can involve in different kind of skills, they can do some kind of a work. Okay, now many number of times they are not equipped to make the sellable products. Okay, so they are not being given the skill sets, they are not being given such kind of vocations, and nor they are motivated to work there. Particularly the prisoners who are there onto the life imprisonment or such kind of a long imprisonments, they are not at all motivated. So therefore it has been provided that we need to focus on such kind of things. Even there are the problems that the raw materials, even for making some creative item, they are not there. Okay, so all these issues we have. Now we can see here there are certain examples where some private partnership has been carried fine in the jails, so that the prisoners get a meaningful opportunity to create some meaningful. Okay, so for reformative measures, these particular private partnerships have been started. We can take the example of Jaipur rugs. Now when we talk about the Jaipur rugs, so basically Mr. N.K. Chaudhary, he is called as the Gandhi of the carpet industry. Okay, he is the founder of the Jaipur rugs. He, along with the Director General of Police in 2016, led to the rebirth of the idea of carpet weaving for the prison inmates. Okay, so prison inmates, they are involving in the carpet weaving. First of all, by the carpets that they are making, these carpets can be sold in the market. By that they get money. Moreover, more importantly, they are getting learning the skill which they can practice when they go out, and by that particular skill they can make a dignified living. They don't need to do such petty offenses, crimes, or such kind of a thing, because many number of times the people are involved in thefts, robbery, etc. Because of that they come into the jail. Now when they have this opportunity, they will not be involving in anti-social activities. Then there is a freedom manchaha. Okay, now what is this freedom manchaha? It is a sustainable initiative. Now here long term prisoners in the jails of Jaipur, Bikaner and Dosa, they are being given opportunity to design their own rugs. Okay, rugs. Okay, so they are designing their own rugs. Rugs are like a dari. Okay, a dari or a kind of a carpet, but that is not that refined. Okay, so they are designing their own rugs. Then after that, the Andhra Pradesh Prison Department has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Himalaya Wellness Company. So you might have seen Himalaya Company, Himalaya's products. They come out with the beauty products, they have Ayurvedic products they have. So basically the prisoners, they are cultivating the medicinal plants in the Vishakhapatnam Central Jail. They are taking care of these particular plants, and these plants will be given to the Himalaya Wellness Company. Okay, so this is a kind of a opportunity that has been given to them. After that, we also have the example of Anantapur Open Prison in Andhra Pradesh, where alfalfa is a type of a special grass which is being cultivated for the Himalaya Wellness Company in the Anantapur prison in Andhra Pradesh. So these are some of the good case studies. Then we have the example of Minda Furukawa Electrics Private Limited, or MFE. Now what MFE had done? MFE had started a joint venture. Fine. And now in the Tihad jail, the jail inmates are manufacturing the automotive components, and these automotive components will be procured by Minda Furukawa Electric Limited. So they can get opportunity in these ventures after they will be released, and here also they are learning a new skill. Now this particular model is being operated under the public-private partnership. Okay, so this is something that is going on. Now, Ashok Minda Group also started such a facility in Yerwada Jail, where wire harnesses for Mahindra and Mahindra is being provided. Now, particularly this MFE and Ashok Minda Group partners, the ventures that they have started, they will be giving the technical skill sets to the jail inmates. Now, there are a lot of benefits of such public-private partnership initiatives that has been started. There are multiple benefits of such initiatives. For example, number one, it gives avenue of support when they step into the real world. Okay. Now, many number of times, the people who are in the jail, they are illiterate. They don't have some vocation, they don't have some skill. Because of that particular thing only, they actually got involved in some anti-social criminal kind of activities. Okay, now they have some skill set which they can use. It also gives them the regular source of income while they are in the jail. Now many of the people are the sole breadwinners of their family. Their family doesn't goes in destitution, so that their children, their kids can continue the education. Right, when they are involved into this PPP projects, they get income which they can use for their household needs. They can send it to their family. It leads to mental well-being. Okay, basically it has been provided that an unoccupied mind is a devil's workshop. An unoccupied mind is a devil's workshop. So when they are involved into the work, it will lead kind of a mental well-being. There is less chances for creating law and order problems for such kind of inmates. The next thing that comes here is that it adds prestige and prosperity to their penalized lives. It gives meaning to their lives, and it supports their families. So therefore, all these particular kind of benefits are there for such kind of a projects. Now, basically, it has also been provided, guys, that we need right now social entrepreneurship. Now when we talk about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship's purpose is to create profit, but social entrepreneurship is a venture which aims to create a world where the corporate entities can do business but can also contribute in social upliftment, can provide opportunities to the vulnerable people. And social entrepreneurship is something where business will give opportunity to the women, will educate the children, and as a part of a social entrepreneurship, they can also provide assistance to the prison inmates. Is it clear? So the business corporate houses can uplift these people, fine, whom the society has rejected because they have done some crime. We have the PPP models that we have discussed here. For example, the Ashok Minda Group, MFE Group, fine, the Himalaya Wellness is giving such opportunities. So we need such more organizations, corporates, that they should come forward and they help the prison inmates that they can learn some vocations. So these corporates can bring the vocational reforms in the prisons. Now here we can also take the quotation of Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela says that a nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizen, because the best of the best citizen, highest citizens, privileged citizens, any state can treat them in a better way, but a nation is to be judged at how it treats its lowest citizens. So this is the quotation by Nelson Mandela. You can use it, and by this particular quotation we can conclude it. Okay, so that is all guys about this particular quotation. And meanwhile, let's take the questions if you have. Okay, first of all, good evening to all of you. Shubdeep, Priyanka, Vaibhav, Madhusmita, Akashdeep, Pallavi, Sandeep, Lakshmi, Meenu, Nishant, Akashdeep, Divya, okay, Pandi, Nishant, Venki. Okay, Meenu. Sir, corporal punishment comes within which category? Okay, so corporal punishment is something where the physical punishment is being given. Okay, so basically corporal punishment is not something which will only be given in the prisons. Even if a teacher is physically beating a student, okay, that is a kind of a corporal punishment. Okay, I hope you understand it. Okay, the capital punishment however is different. Capital punishment is a death penalty. Okay, so capital punishment, if you are meaning, capital punishment is different. So capital punishment comes under the deterrent and sometimes even in retributive also. It doesn't comes in reformative. It comes in deterrence and retributive, because sometimes a person had done so big crime that as a part of a retribution, the capital punishment is to be given. But more it comes in deterrence. Okay, so I hope it's clear. Okay, Melissa, Venki, Tamil, Nandan, a very good evening to you all. Okay, so the next article, major questions about minors. This article we have taken from the Indian Express newspaper, and this article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, social justice and children related issues. Okay, so let's start with the article. Okay, now guys, this particular article is coming a lot in the news, okay, and in almost all the newspapers one or the other article is coming on this particular topic. So very important for upcoming 2023 examination. Okay, so there can be a question that is expected, a lot expected. So recently what had happened, Chief Justice of India has given a message to Parliament that we need to concern the age of consent issue under the POCSO Act. Okay, now let's discuss first of all the POCSO Act. So POCSO Act stands for Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. Now this particular act aims to protect the children from sexual harassment, sexual assaults, penetrative sexual assault that has happened, rape, etc. As per the POCSO Act, a child is defined as any person below the 18 years of age. So this particular act is first of all gender neutral. This act is gender neutral. So it talks about a child, not a girl. Child is any person who is below the 18 years of age. Okay, and regards the best and this POCSO Act regards the best interest and welfare of the child as a matter of paramount importance. The most importance is given to the child's interest. Okay, and it also wants to ensure the healthy physical, emotional, intellectual and social development of the child. Now the POCSO Act defines the sexual abuse. It defines sexual abuse in multiple categories. For example, there is a penetrative assault, okay, where there is some penetration that has been carried. Then there can be the non-penetrative assault. Non-penetrative assault is forcing a child to involve in oral sex. Okay, a non-penetrative assault can also be undue fondling and all such kind of a thing. There can be sexual harassment. Now guys, understand, sexual harassment is a broad term. Sexual harassment will include many things. It will include many things. For example, undue gestures, undue comments. Okay, all these things will come under sexual harassment. And then pornography of the children. All these things are taken under consideration under the POCSO Act of 2012. Now this particular act provides this particular thing, that a case of a child sexual abuse must be disposed within 1 year from the date of offense is reported. Within 1 year, this particular case is to be disposed, and for such kind of a thing, there are the special courts that are also to be constituted. Now, this POXO Act got amended in 2019 as well to include more stringent punishment, including the death penalty. So, certain kind of sexual assaults of the children, it will attract the death penalty. Such is the thing. Now understand this particular thing, that POXO Act, it has been provided, though it was created with good intention, but the application of POXO Act is leading to certain injustices, particularly to the male children. Now what has happened? Basically, there is one more question that comes, that is the age of consent. Now age of consent is that particular age at which a person legally is competent to give consent for the sexual acts. Now what is the age of consent? As per after the POXO Act, the age of consent has been brought at 18 years. Now the age of consent has increased over the past few decades. For example, earlier it was a 10 year, it got increased from 10 to 12, from 12 it got increased to 14, from 14 it got increased to 16, and now it is 18, that as of 2013 after the POXO Act came. Now what it means? It means that a person of 17-year-old, even if that particular person has involved into a consensual sexual relation, that consent will not count. It will be counted as rape. Okay, so this is something that has happened. Now basically, when we talk about the POXO Act, the POXO Act's objective was to protect the children, who have been sexually harassed by the people. But the POXO Act has over criminalized the sexual practices, and even the sexual romantic sexual relations that are there, they are also being criminalized. Now guys, understand this particular thing. There is an issue that comes here. Okay, and the issue is something like this, that many number of times the children in the adolescence, they get involved into the romantic physical relationships. There is a consensual relationships, and often it leads to the sexual relations as well. But particularly the boys, they are charged as they have done the rape, though the consent was there. Now guys, the evolving capacity has not been taken in cognizance in this particular act. What is evolving capacity? Understand this particular thing, that yes, we want to protect the children who are less than 18 years of age, but there is a difference between a 6-year-old kid and a 17-year-old kid. A 17-year-old person can understand far more implications of any particular thing than a 6-year-old. So basically, we cannot consider all the people below the 18 year as one homogeneous group that nobody knows anything. We can't treat that. So basically, it has been provided that what has happened, if we take many of the acts, for example, POXO, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, Child Marriage Act, they have created a socio-legal web that deprives the minor girls of many of the rights. Okay, for example, Medical Termination Pregnancy Act, the POXO Act, Child Marriage Act. Basically, what has happened, the women, many number of times, it desexualizes the women. Minor girls are desexualized. For example, they cannot give the consent. Okay, as per the POXO. Child Marriage Act basically has put their age of 18 for the marriage. Now guys, understand this particular thing. I'll take one example so that you can understand that what this article is trying to say here. Just a minute. Now, suppose there is a 17-year-old girl, and that 17-year-old girl has involved in a consensual sexual relation with the consent with, let's say, a boy. And let's say that this particular girl become pregnant. Okay, now if this particular girl want to get married, she cannot marry. Why? Because the minimum age for marriage is 18 years. She cannot even make the sexual relation, because for that particular thing also the 18 years of age is there. Is it clear or not? Particularly then when we talk about the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, under that also there are a lot of obligations that have been imposed. So basically, these particular acts are desexualizing the women. Moreover, basically, there is also the poor sexual awareness among the girls that we have. Now, just to complement these particular things, I want to give you some data. So according to the National Family Health Survey 5, it has been provided that 39% of the women, they had their first sexual experience before turning 18. So 39%, or you can say roughly 40% women have their sexual experience before they turn 18. Okay, then the same that is the National Family Health Survey 5 also provides this particular thing, that 45% of unmarried girls in the age of 15 to 19 years, 15 to 19 years, 45% of the girls, they have used the contraception. They have used the contraception. So it means that the girls even before the age of 18, they are sexually active. And as they are sexually active, and as they cannot give the consent, the basically adolescent males who are making the relation, when it's discovered by the family, then the family charges these boys under the POCSO Act. Okay, so it has been provided that these particular laws are being used to settle the family honor. That is something that has been happening. It is being provided that the state is acting as parens patriae. Now, what is parens patriae? Parens patriae. Parens patriae is an authority who behaves as to be the legal protector of a particular group of people. So the state is acting as a parens patriae, that is an authority which understood itself to be the legal protector. So it is acting like this. And in a way, what is happening? Paradoxically, it is persecuting the youth at the same time. Now the children, boys below the 18 years of age, they are getting persecuted. Now we can see this particular thing by some data. Now it has been provided that number of juveniles, the boys particularly who are within the age of 16 to 18, fine, it has been provided that large number of POCSO cases that have been filed, in which in these cases the juveniles are involved. Okay, so the number of juveniles apprehended under POCSO has seen a staggering jump of 180% between 2017 and 2021. So 180% increase in the cases, particularly where the juveniles, children between 6 to 18 are there. Now there are two type of cases. There are the non-consent sexual activities. For that they should be punished, they deserve punishment. But then there are the consent full sexual activities also that are there. Okay, so in this particular thing, punishing a boy will not bring the justice, because these boys don't even know that such kind of a law is existing. They don't know about that particular law. According to National Crime Record Bureau report, Crime in India 2021, it has been provided that criminalizing underage basically it has talked about underage sexuality. It has been provided that 25% of the total POCSO cases are of the underage sexuality. That is, the boy and the girl were less than 18 years age, they involved in some sexual relationship, then the case got filed. So these are 25% cases, and they are overburdening the courts. Already more than 4 crore cases are pending in the Indian court. So it is overburdening the already burdened judiciary. Then it has also been provided that even Supreme Court has recognized that we need to correct this particular thing, and multiple judgments of the Supreme Court as well as the High Courts are there. For example, Delhi High Court judgment in AK versus State of Government of NCT of Delhi judgment. In this particular judgment, the Delhi High Court very clearly provided that the intention of POCSO was to protect the children below the age of 18 years from sexual exploitation. So this was the intention of the POCSO. The intention of POCSO was not to criminalize the romantic relationship. Its intention was to punish the people who are raping the children. But what has happened? Consenting young adults are also getting punished. It was never the objective. Then Madras High Court, in one of a judgment, that is Vijay Lakshmi versus State, it has provided this particular thing, that we need to draw a line demarcating the nature of act that should not be made to fall within the scope of this law. Certain acts should not come under this, and those acts are the consensual sexual relationship acts. We need to define that particular line, but it has not happened. Then we have Dharmendra Singh versus State of NCT 2020 judgment. Now in this particular judgment, the Delhi High Court has attempted to increase the chances of bail. Okay, so this is something that has happened. Now basically, such kind of provisions have also been talked about in the US also. Now in this particular direction, recently what has happened, at the Delhi Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, Supreme Court Justice has clearly provided that we need to evolve a separate procedure for children while dealing with the POCSO cases. So therefore, now the matter comes here is that we cannot deal the boys, we cannot deal the children under the POCSO who have involved into the consensual sexual relationships in the same capacity as the other people are getting treated. So this matter is to be evolved as soon as possible. So this is guys all about this particular article. Fine, and I hope that you have understood it. So guys, with this we come to an end to the today's editorial analysis discussion. And guys, the PDF of this entire discussion that we have discussed here, this PDF is available on the Telegram channel, and the link for the Telegram channel, the Unacademy Sahil Saini Telegram channel, the link has been given in description box in YouTube. You can go there and you can download that PDF. That is all guys for today. I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll be meeting on Monday because on Sunday editorials are not published. So now we'll meet on Monday. Till then, please take care of yourselves guys. Thank you so much, and if you have any doubt, you can write your doubts in the comment box. Any doubt? Okay. Good evening to all of you. Gorinath, Tamil, Anil, Madhusmita. Okay, good evening, good evening. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Please take care of yourselves, and Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you.